She sent a single message shortly before she disappeared. It was brief, carefully worded, and carried no obvious emotion. Yet its meaning would later prove crucial. The message warned that if something happened to her, investigators should look closely at the person closest to her. After it was delivered, her phone went completely silent. There were no further texts, no answered calls, and no digital activity of any kind. For those who knew her, the silence was immediate cause for concern. For investigators, the full significance of that message would only become clear much later. The central question was whether the message reflected anxiety or whether it was a deliberate warning from someone who believed she was in danger. Jasmine Pace was 22 years old when she disappeared in August 2022. She lived in the Birmingham, Alabama area and worked in childcare, a job that required consistency and trust. Friends and family described her as dependable and communicative. She did not disappear without explanation and did not ignore messages from people close to her. She lived with her boyfriend, with whom she had been in a relationship for several months. To outsiders, her life appeared stable. She had steady employment, regular contact with loved ones, and no history of running away. Privately, however, the relationship had become strained. According to later police records, Jasmine had confided to at least one friend that arguments with her boyfriend were intensifying and that she felt uneasy. On the day she vanished, Jasmine followed what appeared to be her normal routine. There was no evidence she intended to travel, quit her job, or cut off contact. The only communication that stood out was the final message she sent earlier that day. The recipient later told police the wording felt intentional rather than emotional. It did not ask for immediate help. Instead, it suggested preparation, as though Jasmine wanted to leave a record in case she could no longer speak for herself. Shortly after sending the message, her phone stopped responding. When friends tried to contact her later that day and the next, there was no reply. This behavior was entirely out of character. Her disappearance was reported to law enforcement soon afterward. Initially, investigators treated the case as a missing adult investigation. There were no signs of forced entry, no witnesses to violence, and no visible crime scene. Jasmine's boyfriend told police she had left the home voluntarily. He suggested she may have gone elsewhere on her own and implied there was no immediate reason for alarm. At that stage, authorities had limited grounds to challenge his account. Adults are legally allowed to leave without notice, and there was no physical evidence of crime. However, investigators also had Jasmine's final message, which remained unresolved. Phone records confirmed the message had been sent only hours before she vanished. There were no outgoing communications afterward and no activity indicating continued movement. Location data showed no meaningful changes following the message, suggesting the phone had either been disabled or was no longer accessible to its owner. Family and friends told police Jasmine would not have left without telling someone. She would not have ignored repeated calls or abandoned her responsibilities. Despite these concerns, the absence of physical evidence slowed the investigation. As weeks passed, pressure mounted. Media attention increased, and Jasmine's family urged authorities to take a closer look. Investigators re-examined earlier statements and began focusing more closely on her relationship. Digital forensic analysis revealed escalating conflict between Jasmine and her boyfriend in the days leading up to her disappearance. Text records documented arguments, and witnesses confirmed she had expressed discomfort and fear. Behavioral experts later noted that conditional warning messages like Jasmine's are uncommon and often signal perceived immediate threat rather than general anxiety. Despite these indicators, investigators later acknowledged that the lack of visible violence delayed the case's escalation. As time passed, surveillance footage was overwritten and opportunities to collect time-sensitive evidence were lost. The investigation reached a turning point when authorities confirmed Jasmine's phone had not been accessed since the day she disappeared. Experts noted that voluntarily abandoning a phone is highly unusual, particularly for someone who maintained regular communication. This finding shifted the direction of the case. When investigators re-interviewed Jasmine's boyfriend, they compared his statements with phone data and other evidence. Inconsistencies became increasingly clear. His timeline did not align with digital records, and items Jasmine typically carried were unaccounted for. Confronted with mounting discrepancies, he confessed. According to official police statements and court documents, he admitted that Jasmine had not left voluntarily. He acknowledged that the relationship had turned violent and that he had killed her inside the home they shared. Following the confession, her remains were recovered. In court, prosecutors emphasized the significance of Jasmine's final message. It demonstrated awareness, contradicted claims that she had simply walked away, and showed she understood something was wrong before she died. Her boyfriend was charged and later convicted. While the legal process reached its conclusion, the emotional impact endured. For Jasmine's family, the knowledge that she tried to warn someone is both painful and powerful. That single message carried her voice beyond her final moments. Investigators later reflected on the lessons of the case, how early warning signs can be overlooked, how digital evidence can speak when victims cannot, and how silence itself can be a form of testimony. Jasmine's phone stopped responding, but the information it contained did not. Her final message, restrained and deliberate, became the key to understanding what happened. The question that remains is how many warnings appear ordinary until it's too late to understand what they meant.